They complained of delays and deception and accused the Malaysian government of cheating them. The dozens of angry relatives who tried to storm Malaysia's embassy in Beijing today want physical evidence that their loved ones are dead. But despite yesterday's declaration that the flight was lost, there's still no proof that it was lost to the sea. Bad weather in the southern Indian Ocean forced the suspension of the hunt for wreckage. Our Asia correspondent John Sparks is at the airbase in Perth where the search is being coordinated. So John, tell us what's the latest now.
Thanks, Kathy. Well, what we've got tonight is a certain amount of information about one of the key questions. Where is the plane? We've had plenty of mathematical analysis about those electronic pings, and the experts are now certain that the aircraft went down off the coast of Western Australia. But their conclusion doesn't offer a whole lot of precision. Let's have a look at the map now. It's thought the aircraft went down on the southern tip of the southern corridor, the so-called southern corridor, where Australians have already been searching for 9 days. And it's also where a number of unidentified objects have been spotted by satellites and planes. But the search area is still huge. We're talking about 450,000 nautical square miles. And just remember that the search teams haven't actually got their hands physically on any of this debris from Flight 370 yet. I mean, that is a big issue. It's a huge issue for relatives of the missing. They are not likely to trust the experts. They're not likely to trust their mathematical calculations. They're going to want to see physical proof before they begin this process of closure. Now, that puts a lot of pressure on the Australians and other countries to actually go out and find that debris, and they are struggling. The weather was very poor today. None of the planes got off the ground, and the Australian Defence Minister and other officials were talking about that earlier today.
These beautiful aircraft behind me are all on the ground, as you can see, because it's unsafe to fly down there. Now remember, this part of the world, this Southern Ocean, has shipwrecked many sailors in our history in Western Australia. It is rough. Sea State 7, you know, there are 20-30 metre waves. It is very dangerous, even for big Panamax class ships.
We're not searching for a needle in a haystack. We're still trying to define where the haystack is. So that's just to put it in context.
Well, we'll have more from John shortly, but first let's go to Beijing, where family and friends of those on board the missing plane have been venting their fury outside the Malaysian embassy, angry at the way the authorities have handled the situation. Danny Vincent was there.
Parts of Beijing were in full riot mode today as families of the passengers of Flight MH370 descended on the Malaysian embassy to protest. Protests are technically illegal in China. Stability is of crucial importance to the Chinese Communist Party, and these scenes of dissent are extremely rare. Some took their chance to vent some rage. What are you doing, he asks. I want to go and find those Malaysians. They try to calm her before making an exception. Another rarity in a usually hardline country. The mystery surrounding the disappearing flight has created a media vortex around the family members here. It's a grief filled with Chinese nationalism. The rally itself was kept outside of the Malaysian embassy fences, out of the view of the world's media. The protesters, they were removed by the busload. I asked one of the organisers of the protest what the focus of their anger was.
They are lying from the beginning. They are lying to the whole world.
What do you think happened to them?
I don't know. They're just hiding. Because there are so many things that was ridiculous and it couldn't be happen in common sense. So there must be something inside, and I don't know what is they are hiding, but we will find out.
Many here are still reeling in disbelief. They blame the Malaysians for poorly handling this tragedy. They blame them for the deaths of their loved ones. As China struggles to control their anger under the glare of the world's press, the relatives say they want evidence that what the authorities say did happen. Only then the family members, many of those are still staying at this hotel here in Beijing, will begin to be able to grieve for those they've been told have already perished. Until then, amongst some of them remains a glimmer of hope. Danny Vincent, Channel 4 News in Beijing.
Well, let's go back now to John Sparks, again joining us from Perth. Well, John, we heard from Danny there that without physical evidence, some of the families are still hopeful that their loved ones are going to turn up. How is that international search going with all the complexities of different nations cooperating?
Well, it's obviously a huge challenge, and critically, we're no closer to knowing exactly why this happened, and that would help certainly with the search. What the investigators need are two things. They need to know where the wreckage is. They need to get their hands on the wreckage. That will contain clues about what happened, and they need those black boxes to figure all this out, this very complicated jigsaw, particularly the cockpit voice recorder. And the multinational search team here are moving very quickly to try and get that. The Americans are bringing some very sophisticated kit down here, unmanned submarines and sonar detection gear. But they've got a huge number of challenges ahead of them. Too many for me to mention now, but let me just give you one example. Nobody has mapped the bottom of the southern Indian Ocean. Nobody really knows what's down there, so it's difficult to use this kit until they do. It's no wonder that a top US aviation expert today said, we're going to need to get lucky to find Flight 370. And I think that gives you an idea of the obstacles they are facing. Back to you.
Indeed. John in Perth, thank you very much indeed.